White Mythology, written by W.D. Clarke, narrated by L.J. Ganser. For my father, W.A. Clarke III. It began when Weissman brought him to Europe, a discovery that love among these men, once past the simple feel and orgasming of it, had to do with masculine technologies, with contracts, with winning and losing. Thomas Pynchon, Gravity's Rainbow. Skinner boxed. Wednesday. Xmas past. In the struggle, if that can be called a struggle in which the ghost, with no visible resistance on its own part, was undisturbed by any effort of its adversary, Scrooge observed that its light was burning high and bright, and dimly connecting that with its influence over him, he seized the extinguisher cap, and by a sudden action pressed it down upon its head. The spirit dropped beneath it, so that the extinguisher covered its whole form. But though Scrooge pressed it down with all his force, he could not hide the light, which streamed from under it in an unbroken flood upon the ground. Charles Dickens, A Christmas Carol. Chapter 1. Pure Bullshit. Dr. Ed woke up sweating and breathing heavily, and sat bolt upright, with an instant-on alertness that he had not experienced in years. His heart felt dangerously fast, and he immediately thought of his computer, which had recently been tampered with by his son, and whose CPU was now running overclocked. There followed hard upon this naggingly recurrent worry a rumbling in Dr. Ed's lower abdomen, and he made an anxious dash for the master bedroom's ensuite toilet. The upshot of what disappeared into the downspout hardly deserved the appellation stool, and was not at all what Dr. Ed was accustomed to: firm, long, and in terms of odor, sweetly horse-like. Rather, today's effluent was a curious, and as it would turn out portentous, mixture of gas and, not quite metaphorically speaking, what his more nautically inclined colleagues termed black water. Naturally, Dr. Ed was not at all content to greet the dawn in such a disquieting manner as this. His wife, thankfully, had not been roused by his helpless bleating, honking, and groaning. She also failed to be stirred by the subsequent, more quotidian noises of Dr. Ed completing the trinity of his morning ablutions with a shower and a shave. And she snored right through the sliding and banging of various dresser drawers and kitchen cupboards, through the dentist drill whine of the coffee grinder, and through the banal enthusiasms of the snooze-you-lose morning show on 1040 Cruise. She was a self-medicating sleepwalker, and an enthusiast of the narcotic action of, both over-the-counter and prescription, nighttime cold and headache medications, and would not regain consciousness until she was good and ready. After his coffee, psychotropic Honduran beans that came in smallish, cheap cellophane packs, which Dr. Ed's wife poured by the dozen into a large chock-full-of-nuts tin and kept erroneously in the freezer, a continual replenishment of which was couriered to him on a regular basis by an ophthalmologist colleague who performed charity work in that Central American hotspot, Dr. Ed found that he had to go again. His subsequent visit was as unusual, as discomfiting, and as murkily unfathomable as the first, but the second passing left him feeling temporarily less ill at ease, in relative terms, than before. But relative to what, exactly? Oh, he calculated, he figured, as was his wont, that this nascent little situation of his was somewhat analogous to the manner in which nicotine works its own small-scale wonders on the central nervous systems of those habituated to its charms. That is, there is a momentary release of and relief from pressure, relief which is always accompanied by and predicated upon the knowledge, the foreknowledge, statistically speaking, that more of the same is assuredly on its way. Like many of us, Dr. Ed was accustomed to spending more time in the washroom than was strictly necessary to the performance of the various bodily functions to which that part of every
Sample complete. Ready to continue?